Thank you very much for your comments and questions. So we understand that you're pregnant, you have a high risk pregnancy and your doctor has advised you to stay off of work. Now what you've asked is whether you should be paid for medical suspension during this time. Now this will very much depend on whether the reason for your absence is your risk in your pregnancy generally or your risk at work. So ordinarily what would happen is your employer would undertake a risk assessment in relation to your pregnancy. And if they identify that you are a high risk or there are risks in relation to the work that you do, then they would look at ways in which they could reduce those risks. So maybe changing things at work, or if that's not available, offering you an alternative job role during your pregnancy. And if at that point there is no alternative job role available to you, then they would then put you on medical suspension, in which case you are entitled to full pay. So essentially, the risk within your job is too high for you to carry out. There's no alternatives to reduce that risk and there's no alternative employment available, then it would be medical suspension and full pay. Now, the difference is if your doctor is saying that you're being signed off because you're generally unfit for work rather than specifically related to your employment, then at that point your employer may be entitled to pay you statutory sick pay only. So it's really important to clarify, I think, if the risks to you are specific to the job or not. And because it's quite an interesting area and quite complex, it might be worth getting some specific advice. But I would certainly start with talking with your employer about the risk assessment in relation to your pregnancy and then take it from there. If you want to have a chat with any one of my colleagues or myself, then you can always call the office and we'd be happy to have a chat with you about it in more detail.